All right, the first question goes to Lita Baldor, Associated Press.
Hi, Ryan. Can you give us a little bit more detail on the face-to-face meeting? Because the Russians are saying today that they warned the U.S. that there are going to be Russian special forces with their troops around Deir ez-Zor, and they specifically warned that there would be retaliation if any of the Syrian regime troops were targeted. Can you talk a little bit about what came up in this meeting, where it was, and what the U.S. response to those types of threats were?
Okay, Lita, thanks for the question. First off, I'll say that the face-to-face meeting between the Russians and the coalition military officials happened in the region, so it was nearby, so that I won't go too far into discussions on exactly where that is, because there may be follow-up meetings, perhaps in the same location. As far as what the statements were made recently by the Russians, I will just go ahead and say that all the more reason why the deconfliction measures must be discussed and really figured out to the gnat's detail. And that is, as we have seen, the convergence of forces next to one another just increases the need for these deconfliction measures. So what does that mean? They had a face-to-face discussion, laid down maps and graphics to discuss where those deconfliction measures would be put into place, so that one, we don't inadvertently fire upon one another. Number two, we can stay focused on ISIS. And three, we can continue to maintain support to our forces, both from the air to our forces on the ground, to make sure that they can continue their efforts to defeat ISIS.
Does this set up a new sort of deconfliction zone, specifically in and around Deir ez-Zor? And it sounds like when you're sharing maps and graphics that it sounds more like coordination, cooperation than deconfliction. Would you say that this effort to coordinate and deconflict has moved to a new level?
So what I would say is we're not going to say that it is a zone. This is I think a natural progression to the deconfliction line that we had in place that runs south of Tabqa and ran parallel to the Euphrates River. Now that we've gotten into Deir ez-Zor, that needs to be up to level, and the level of detail that is required for the deconfliction has to increase. And because of the proximity, that is why we had these face-to-face meetings. Because of what happened this past weekend on September 16th, this is another reason why these meetings are happening. But as far as cooperation, I would not call it, I think as someone has described it in the past, as a chummy relationship. It is professional, and it is for deconfliction, and it is so that we know where they are and they know where we are, and we can continue our efforts to defeat ISIS.
Just one quick thing. When was the meeting? Sorry.
It was in the last couple days.